Thank you, Mitch, but but I'm not sure that raising the question before a lecture, why should we listen to one another, is priming the audience, as it were. Okay. Well, thank you very much, and let me just say, and as I'm starting this last lecture, how much I've enjoyed my time here and enjoyed talking to everyone and gotten some great feedback and had some great conversations. So thank you very much, all of you, for coming, and all the people that I've had discussions with outside of the lecture hall. So to introducing the series of 3 lectures altogether, I focused on the question of what is it about humans that makes them a little bit different than the other, their closest primate relatives. And if you ask that question to people in general, and probably most of the people in the room, what makes humans different? One of the top things on the list would be language. Okay? Humans have language. Other people don't have language. Other primate species don't have language. And there are lots of aspects of language. It's a symbolic system, cognitive representations, communication, and so forth. But for me, saying that, well, other primates don't have language is kind of like saying other primates don't have skyscrapers, when in fact they don't even build little huts or buildings at all. So yeah, they don't have language, but language is the icing on the cake. So what I'm going to try to argue to today is that what humans have in the direction of communication is a whole set of cognitive and motivational mechanisms that had to be there first before language could evolve. So let me say what I mean more specifically. So very specifically, here are natural gestures, what I call natural gestures. Pointing and pantomiming, or iconic gestures, are what I call natural gestures. So we're not talking about sign language that's conventionalized into signs like we see here. We're talking about natural gestures, like if you went to a foreign country and you would be in a store and you would point to what you wanted, or you would tell somebody to do this, or say, let's go do this, or whatever. So natural gestures, like pointing and pantomiming, are species unique. No non-human primates, no other species that we know of point for one another. This little simple thing like this, other species don't do this. Other species don't do these iconic gestures either. So they're already unique to humans, and they're species universal, meaning that all cultures, there's some kind of pointing. It's not always finger pointing of the same type. There are cultures where they do a kind of chin pointing and lip pointing and so forth, but they do some kind of indicating a direction for you to look. And iconic gestures of one kind or another are also prevalent everywhere. And they're naturally meaningful. Now, the word natural is loaded here, of course, but by naturally meaningful, I mean that they come from behaviors that are already, in some sense, meaningful for the recipient. So pointing derives from gaze following. So all primates that we know of, all of them that have been tested, will follow gaze directions. So you look over here, and they look in this direction. So if you point and look, we don't know how much they're processing the pointing, but they look in this direction. So it's natural for humans to look where someone else is looking. And so that's a beginning point for pointing. Pointing is essentially look over there. And iconic gestures, or pantomiming, comes from the interpretation of intentional action. So again, if we go out hunting for different foods, and sometimes it's one of the foods is tubers, which you have to dig out of the ground, and I sort of go like this, then you can interpret that because that looks like an intentional action of digging. So your ability to interpret intentional actions makes that sort of immediately meaningful. All right. So the starting point is of this naturally meaningful gestures makes for a good candidate for an intermediary step on the way to human language that can get us from ape-like communication to a natural language, or at least that's the argument. So let's talk about pointing for just 1 minute. Let me start with this. Okay, so pointing. I actually gave a talk one time called "In Praise of the Pointing Gesture." So I think of pointing as being of monumental significance. So that shows you a little bit how geeky I am on this topic. But pointing. I point for you like this. What do I mean? What do I intend? You have no idea. Okay? The pointing by itself doesn't do anything. You don't even know what I'm pointing at. Am I pointing at the wall? Am I pointing at the railing? Am I pointing at a small crack in the wall? Am I pointing at the color of the wall? Wittgenstein has a famous quote, point to a piece of paper. Now point to its color. Now point to its shape. Now point to its number. How did you do that, he asks. Okay? So pointing by itself doesn't do anything. The gloss is really just look over there, look in that direction, and you'll know what I mean. Now, how do I know what you mean? Okay, let's give a couple of examples here. So let's say you and I are walking toward the library, and there's a row of bicycles, and I just point to the bicycles. All right. And in one case, it might be that we've been talking about, we wonder where Mitch is, and blah, 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 and we point and we see Mitch's bicycle parked right out of the library, and that pointing gesture in that case means something like, oh, look, Mitch is at the library. See, we both know that that's his bicycle, and it's at the library, so Mitch is already at the library. If we know that a couple of days ago your bicycle was stolen, and I point over there, and there's your stolen bicycle, then obviously that means something, the exact same gesture, in the exact same physical context, we're walking to the library together, means something totally different. Now it means there's your stolen bicycle. Or it could mean that we were wondering if the library was still open, and as we get close, there's a whole bunch of bicycles in the library parking rack, and it means, oh, look, see? A lot of people there. Library's still open. How can we mean such incredibly complex and different things with a protruding finger? Now, of course, you say it's in the context, but context doesn't get you very far unless you think about it right. The physical context is the same in all three situations. It's the conceptual context that's different. It's our background, common ground, or common knowledge that we both know your bicycle was stolen, or we both know that we're wondering where Mitch is, or we both are wondering if the library's open. Now, this pointing gesture has unique features both in terms of the structure and the motive. So let's go with the structure first. Common conceptual ground. Now this is something that people get all twisted around about, but I'm just going to make it as simple as I can. All right. We both have to know that that's Mitch's bicycle for that to mean Mitch is probably at the library. So if, for example, I just came here from Germany, as I did, and we're walking, and I'm with one of the students or something, and we wonder where Mitch is, and you point to the thing, but I don't know that's Mitch's bicycle. You know, there's no way I could know that. It's my first time in Charlottesville. I don't know what Mitch's bicycle looks like. So you would never point like that, expecting me to understand Mitch is already at the library. I have to know that's just Mitch's bicycle. However, it's not just enough that I know it. So maybe I know it by secret. Maybe Mitch emailed me a picture of his new bicycle, and you don't know that. All right? So now you know that it's Mitch's bicycle, and I know that it's Mitch's bicycle, but you still would never point because you don't know that I know. Okay? You don't know that I know that. And if you follow this long enough, it has to be that you know that you know that it's Mitch's bicycle. Right? And this spiral that has caused all kinds of problems with common knowledge and all this kind of thing, I don't have the philosophical solution to this problem, but I do know that pointing only is going to have significance if our minds meet in some way. We both know that whose bicycle it is and what our concerns are, and then the point can mean almost anything you want it to in that context. And without that, then we're both in our autistic little minds, and the sticking out the finger is just going to be a protruding finger that's not going to do anything.